This YouTube street racer was almost arrested in Times Square after hitting a cop with his Lamborghini and barely getting away.
They looking for him. Chad, he's a wanted driver in 52 states. Now, if the police come, Chad, we taking off. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna just get in.
They're coming.
Oh, shit, look, get there. Oh, shit.
If you thought Times Square was just about tourists and a bunch of Elmo clones hustling selfies, think again, because earlier this month it turned out to something out of a set from a Need for Speed cutscene. A blue Lamborghini Urus driven by the YouTuber known as License plowed through the middle of New York, clipped a cop, and smashed into a pedicab, which is one of those like bicycle taxis, and sent Times Square into absolute chaos, all while the entire situation was being live streamed on kick.com.
The police officers were pounding on the car with their fists and batons, trying to break the windows and force the doors open. But License stayed calm, slammed his foot on the gas, and sped away before they could stop him.
And now, License is still on the run, posting content, and the NYPD are probably hunting him harder than ever. So, who is this guy that I'm actually referring to? Well, License is one of those guys who became famous for cutting up traffic outside of New York City while avoiding the police. He's on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and kick.com, where he's essentially built this following of over 700,000 followers by posting this wild street racing content. And when I say wild street racing content, it's just like wildly stupid. I mean, essentially, he's just cutting through traffic, putting everyone at risk, including himself and the people who are sitting in the car with him. And overall, I mean, the driving isn't even that impressive. If you put any of these guys on a track, they would get clapped by someone who actually knows how to drive. Essentially, you have a bunch of high-performance rentals just going way too fast through the New York City traffic, putting everyone at risk, and then they're obviously filming this with dash cams and POV cameras and uploading it to YouTube to monetize it. And they make a point to blur out the license plates, and on top of that, distorts voice and hides behind a mask. So he's obviously trying to hide his identity for as long as he can. Hundreds of thousands of people have watched him speed through New York, but as of right now, he has still not been caught.
It's a dangerous trend known as throughway swimming. It's when cars drive recklessly on highways, causing near misses or weaving through lanes.
Do you feel like you're a danger to society?
No.
How worried are you about being caught by the police?
Not worried at all.
Unlike his friend Squeeze Benz, who was actually arrested a year ago. And if you go through his content, every video of him is either him taunting police, dodging chases, and then disappearing to park one of his rented cars in locations that he claims he only knows the location of. So when the news hit that he was almost caught in Times Square, that got a lot of attention. So here's how it all went down. A Tuesday night at the beginning of August, License was in Times Square with some streamers who happened to be live at the time, including one streamer by the name of Shangle, who had his own camera rolling inside the Lambo during the entire police situation. At first, it looks like the usual kind of like clout chasing fans stopping for pics, guys hanging out near the car, nothing out of the ordinary. But then you notice something. Cops already watching from across the street, and not just one, multiple units. And within like 45 seconds, NYPD had cars pulling in from 3 different directions. And that's no coincidence. That's a planned setup. They were positioning to box him in before he could bail. Then chaos erupts, the Lamborghini lunges forward, cops surrounded it, and pedestrians scatter. Also, keep in mind that this is Times Square, one of the busiest places on earth. So when I say pedestrians, there were a lot of them. And during all of this chaos, a pedicab, which is like, you know, the bicycle taxi, it was hit, and NYPD says one officer's foot got ran over. So not exactly life-threatening, but easily enough to add assault to an officer onto the existing rap sheet. But here's where it gets a little bit blurry, because some people online are speculating they heard gunshots, with even some people in the car coming to that conclusion.
Oh my God. Yeah! My brother's back!
And this tells us he's definitely not in custody and that he's going to have to move a lot quieter. I mean, you can even see him worry in this clip.
Oh, I said, keep it a real comment. I was about to leave. Hey, right now, you look very familiar. I'm scared.
But going back to the most important detail, the way cops act in this situation, because it's interesting that they managed to surround him that quickly in Times Square, as this might be a sign of them actually watching the stream. Normally, if you call NYPD about an actual crime in progress, you're waiting for 10 to 15 minutes or maybe even longer. But in this situation, they were already there. So to me, it seems like a targeted operation, and it lines up with what NYPD has been talking about regarding their social media monitoring unit. They announced last year that they're actually watching streamers and social media accounts in real time. So if you're broadcasting your location with thousands of viewers, you're not just streaming to your fans, you're also most likely streaming to the cops. And remember, this isn't the first time clout chasing drivers have ran into the cops, because you have Squeeze Benz, a 19-year-old who went viral drifting through Times Square last year. He posted similar content fairly regularly. And if you remember, October, he was arrested as well last year.
Oh, nah.
Because he thought he was completely untouchable until NYPD and Newark PD actually built a case off his social media footprint and arrested him. His videos literally became the evidence. That's, you know, a similar road that License is speeding down as we speak. So the difference is that Squeeze never ran over a cop's foot, and License allegedly did. And that's honestly the line you really don't want to cross when it comes to law enforcement. Assaulting an officer, even if it's just a foot injury, is the kind of charge prosecutors stack on top of everything else. So where is License today? Well, free currently, but definitely not safe. He might be posting right now, but every stream, every Instagram story, every clip of him flexing is just more fuel to whatever case the NYPD is currently building on him. They're not rushing this. They're gathering every single piece of content, every angle, every stream, and they'll wait for the perfect time to move again. And if they're willing to swing batons at a Lamborghini in Times Square surrounded by tourists and Broadway billboards, just imagine what happens when they finally corner him in somewhere quieter. And let's just talk about the big what if, because what happens if NYPD actually managed to arrest License? Because now it's not just traffic ticket situations anymore. First off, there's the Times Square incident itself. Cops say officer's foot actually got ran over. That alone could turn into assault on an officer, which in New York can jump from a misdemeanor all the way up to a felony, depending on the injuries. And even though the cop's injuries were reported as minor, the fact that it actually happened during an active police operation makes it a huge deal. Then you have the reckless endangerment, because he was allegedly speeding through Times Square, one of the busiest tourist spots on Earth, with pedestrians and cars everywhere. That is literally textbook reckless endangerment, which is also a felony when people are put at risk of serious harm. And since the reports say a pedicab and other bystanders got hit, that only makes things worse. Then you add on the fleeing and eluding police, which is another charge that can jump up depending on how dangerous the chase was. And this was one in front of hundreds of witnesses, on stream in 4K. And then finally, you can't forget the car itself, because he's always on high-end rentals. If prosecutors can prove that he used fake info, or if those cars were damaged while being driven illegally, that can also tack on fraud or Grand Theft Auto type charges. But obviously, the kicker is all of this is happening while he's actively being shown on live streams and his own YouTube videos. So it's not like this is just like one incident that can be used against him. It's his whole YouTube channels. So literally every time he does something like this, it just becomes more and more evidence.
Oh my God! Oh no! 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 Oh no, sir! Oh God! Oh my God! No! No! It's all over.
I mean, no wonder Jack looks so scared here. He's very aware of how easy cars can crash.
Oh! No! No!
The bottom line is, like, half the people we cover here on this channel, every video, every TikTok, every kick stream, he's basically just farming more evidence against himself. So I would not be surprised if he ends up just like Squeeze Benz, because that dude, he thought he was untouchable until cops essentially pieced together months of footage and hit him with a mountain of charges. License is arguably way more reckless, and now that an officer has been hurt, the system has every reason to come down even harder on him. Bottom line, if they catch him, License could be staring down multiple felonies, years in prison, and a giant pile of civil lawsuits from anyone hurt in these stunts. License might think that he's playing some game, but the truth is, the game has definitely changed. And also, just doing this in New York City is incredibly stupid, because you have more CCTV cameras there than like any other city in America. So it's really not that hard for the police to just pinpoint where he's parking his cars. But obviously, social media clout got him famous, but it's also given the cops a playbook, and the more he posts content, the closer they get. But at least he wasn't super gluing veneers into people's mouth like this woman was, who's currently facing 15 years in prison for that. So I would definitely check out that story here, because it is just an insane story. But other than that, drop a like on this video, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.